Captain, incoming message.
It was the dawn of the third age of mankind. Groovy.
Hi-ho. This is me, Kermit the Frog.
Hello there.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Not a great plan.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
Let's see what's out there. Engage.
Hey there, we're those Sci-Fi guys, and this is Those Sci-Fi Guys show. Just two working dudes, different lives, different jobs, but a whole lot of love for science fiction. We are your hosts. I am P.S. McKay. Take two. And I don't want to...
And be prepared this afternoon for some very special guests as we preview movies, and then we have a cooking session, because this sounds like an afternoon talk show.
You said you liked it. You said you liked it.
It was a lot better than the other one, but my point remains valid.
Well, it's better. So, anyway. Yeah, we're working through different theme songs, guys. Be prepared for the next one. We got another one that we'll try playing around with, and then maybe another one after that. Who knows? So anyway, DT, ready for Deja Vu? By the way, everybody, we kind of already did this show tonight, but we didn't hit record. So
it's a lot of work.
It was a lot of
work for nothing.
We went through a lot of information, a whole lot. DT, how you doing, man?
I'm okay, kind of getting over some of this winter crud that people have a tendency to catch. So, yay.
Dude, there's like 4 or 5 different respiratory things going around right now. I had 3 of them, and then I had the stomach bug.
Well, there you hit the jackpot. That's the 4, the quademic: RSV, COVID, flu, and norovirus.
Whatever I had didn't feel like flu, like nasal wise, but I was definitely infected like at least twice within like a month of each other. And then the stomach flu, that was awful. Don't get that. It's impossible to avoid though. You're gonna get it.
My boss had it. Like his kids had it, and then like his whole household had it. He said, you know what, I'm not coming in.
Yeah.
Because they got it over the weekend. Then that's what it was. So we were protected from mayhem.
Yeah. It's awful. It's awful, and I don't recommend it. But anyway,
I've had strains of these things before. Saddam's Revenge is something I don't recommend, but it's a very similar situation.
Is he related to Montezuma?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Marie Claire and Kangaroo Jack also have revenge of a similar variety. I don't know why, but it happens. Weird. Just drink bottled water, everybody. As best you can.
Unless the bottled water betrays you, which it did us.
It's bottled there. Unless it's bottled there locally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ugh. Anyway, all right, well, we might as well just get right into it. Everybody, so I really wanted to get into this subject here. We've got a very appropriate, we could be playing Aerosmith right now, but
be prepared to kick Asteroid.
There you go. There it is. A lot of news lately about Asteroid. Let's see, 2024 YR4. A lot of news lately has been talking about it's a near-earther, and there is a slight chance that it could come and hit the Earth in 2032. I wanted to talk about some straight-up facts. I wanted to talk about what the press is getting wrong, because far be it for me to accept that the press is actually telling the truth once. They never do. especially when it comes to scientific situations and whatnot. Because in the press, if it bleeds, it leads, and that's all that matters. Not this probably isn't going to hit us, but let's go into it. DT, we had a good time to talk, and then we'll talk about, sci-fi related things, Deep Impact, Armageddon, 2 movies that came out within months of each other. Just like how Volcano and Dante's Peak came out within months of each other the year before. Isn't that weird?
That happens all the time. Nope, it happens all the time in Hollywood. Somebody hits on something, Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine.
Well, that was, I think, a corrupt... I don't think the developers for Deep Space Nine stole from Babylon 5, nor does Babylon 5 think Star Trek.
JMS doesn't think so.
But there was definitely some producer that was like, "Hey, why don't you do a space station show?" After hearing about Babylon 5, so whatever.
Yeah.
What was I talking about? Oh, well, has it happened recently? That phenomenon of two separate movies with the same subject coming out within a few months of each other in the movie? I don't think it's happened in the last 20 years.
I don't know. It's hard to tell because there's so many things that just blur together nowadays.
Well, yeah.
I mean, Justice League. Only 5 years later. But as soon as Marvel started doing it, DC started doing it.
Yeah, that's different though. That's just that's chasing the dollar.
That's what a lot of it is.
Well, and DC didn't have faith in a shared universe. We could go for hours about that. That's not what we're here for. But I mean, I can't think of any like similar situations. I mean, it happened all the time in the 90s. Well, whatever.
So, in the last couple of years, so like 2 years ago or whatever, a TV show came out called SAS Rogue Heroes. It's all about the founding of the SAS. That was coming out. Something that had long been rumored came out last year. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, another one of the precursors of special operations from World War II. So there's definitely waves in Hollywood.
Yes. So that being said,
I can't exactly say it's as close as that, but there's a bunch in movie history.
Well, and Hollywood. Well, I can't say that. I was gonna say like Hollywood tends to follow the theme or the what's hot. And I remember in 2008, it was like Hollywood was wanting nothing but vampire stuff for the longest time.
Ugh.
And yes. I know, but I mean, you could thank Twilight for that. Yeah, I saw Twilight opening night because my wife wanted to see it, so I went and I told her, I said, "You watch, because this whole crowd is not a horror crowd, but there's going to be a bunch of previews for really scary horror movies because this is a vampire movie." And boy, was I flipping right. She was freaking out. The whole crowd was not a horror crowd, and they flipped out. I loved it. I loved every second of it. It was great. So,
Well, I mean, the problem is like Twilight amongst some of these other, the Vampire Diaries and everything. They're all like trashy romance novels, right? Because they like almost completely abandon the deep-rooted myth that comes with vampires, which makes them one of the more fascinating myths in legends and lore. But
I'm not here to crap on Stephanie Meyer, by the way. I mean, she found a niche. Nah, I'm not. She found a niche. I'm not necessarily defending it, but she found a niche. It worked and was extremely successful. So I mean, good on her. She also writes in first person present tense in a few things. And I'm like,
This is one of the examples where you wished the asteroid would hit you. Got it.
Not quite. It was fine. Anyway, So I wanted to talk about this, DT. You had an angle which I want you to pick up like you did last time. You bring that up later. But so YR 2024 YR4, an asteroid. The first thing that comes to everyone's mind if we're going to be approached by an asteroid is, oh man, is it going to hit us? And boy, are we going to be going the way of the dinosaurs, right? And we talked about how the idea that an asteroid killed the dinosaurs is a relatively new concept. If we're talking like 50 years now, but it really gained prominence in the 80s when they found the TK boundary. I can't hear you. You're mute. You're muted.
I said the concept is really only about 350 million years old.
Yeah, true. But we, and it was interesting. The idea of like an asteroid killing the dinosaurs, cool. And then the idea of an asteroid being able to kill us didn't actually enter into my head until I was about 11 years old. And I went to the Boston Science Museum at the planetarium, and they did this whole thing about
with Leonard Nimoy.
No, that was the Omni Theater. That's Omni Theater. Oh. They did this whole thing about an asteroid impact was imminent, and what did we need to do in order to try to avoid this happening? Like, do we shoot nuclear weapons at it? Well, that could just break it up into a whole bunch of wear hats. Yeah, break it up into a bunch of smaller pieces, which just create greater havoc. Although I would argue not. But interestingly enough, I don't remember them talking about trying to divert an asteroid, which NASA has successfully tested recently. They were able to do so. But it scared the crap out of me.
Well, yes, if you put up those big signs that say no asteroid, they listen.
Oh my God, really? Wow.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Oh. It feels like we're retreading.
Indigestion. That just gave me indigestion, dude. Of course we're retreading. We have to. The show was good. This is going to be a pale comparison to it. It's going to be awful.
It will be.
So anyway.
We killed in dress rehearsal.
We really did.
That old line from Saturday Night Live. Well, that's really killed in dress rehearsal, but.
So, well, what was I thinking? You threw me completely off my track. Asteroid hitting scared the crap out of me. Then in 1998, it was announced that there was a possibility that an asteroid named Apophis, very large one, planet killer, could potentially hit us in 2032. This is in 1998. Felt like light years away, right? But I was the only one of my friends where I'm going, hey guys, this is like a real thing. Like, do I even want to have a family and children if this is imminent? And then, it gave me all these existential thoughts, like, yeah, it's all the way in 2032, which all my friends were like, that's too far away. It's fine. I'm like, we're going to have children by this point. Maybe they're going to be young adults at that point. Like, I was the person thinking this, by the way.
And, very few people at 17, 18 years old are really thinking about that level, because that was 34 years away. Right? It's 7 years away now, and sometimes that feels like an eternity. Okay.
Why'd you do that? Why did you do that? Ouch.
Look, we're getting to the point where we're now
a heart palpitation.
You want to know what's really messed up is how many of the TV shows we watched in the 80s and 90s that said, that gave us years in the early 21st century where shit was going to be wild, like Transformers. The post movie was all like 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
Like 20 years later, right? Back to the Future 2 was 2015. The Bell riots in Star Trek was last year. Okay.
Last year. Yeah.
All of these Sequest, the first 2 years were all in the 2018, 2019, right? And then then they come back in 2032. That's it's about it. We're like waiting for another like 25, 30 years for Space Above and Beyond. And then maybe First Contact. Come on, Vulcans, help us out.
I'm going to be 82 when that happens. You're going to be 82 when the First Contact happens. That's going to be unless they could find a telomere drug that stops the telomeres from breaking off on our genetic codes. Then it would make us functionally immortal.
We can't even get rid of telemarketers. Remember that.
I know. My phone gets spam calls like 3 or 4 times a day now. That's awful.
My phone gets more spam than a military menu. So.
Oh, good. I hoped you weren't going to go the Hawaiian route because that would have been weird. You had me scared. So that being said, NASA for the Apophis asteroid came out real quick and said there's no chance. They reconfigured the numbers. There's no chance that Apophis is going to be hitting us. For a while, they were worried about a near approach event like in 2024 or something where it would hit this keyhole, which would alter its course. That's not happened. It's gonna be fine. We're fine.
Mon Dieu.
So when the news hit about 2024 YR4, I'm like, wait, is this the Apophis asteroid? And quick search said no. Actually, I don't know how big the Apophis asteroid is. Let's see, Apophis. So I did a quick research, and it still said that Apophis was not going to hit us in 2032. I'm like, okay, so what's going on here? What? Am I boring you?
No, my neck popped, man. Like I said, I have been sick, so my joints are all stiff.
I got you. Okay.
Somebody doesn't listen.
Well, no, the gesture was overwhelming, unfortunately, on video. It's fine. So let's see. Okay. Actually, 2029 is when the keyhole event would happen, but it's still exceedingly unlikely. The Apophis asteroid is approximately 1,400 feet by 560 feet. Very large.
Which asteroid is this?
Apophis, the one that they predicted in 1998 could possibly hit us. That no longer will. But that being said, it's a big one. It's a big asteroid that would cause some climate damage. Now, YR4, I'm just going to call it YR4, much smaller, okay? Roughly about 130 feet across, making it large enough to cause significant damage if it were to hit Earth, but not be in any way, shape, or form a human civilization destroyer. It could destroy a city, okay? But most likely it wouldn't hit a city if it were to hit us. Now, it is projected that...
Yes, because that is... I mean,
What?
come on, man. It could.
It could, but it most likely won't if it were to hit us.
Why?
We're a
Because of
water
the
world.
pollution over a city?
No, because it's a water world. I'm talking about how you literally still can't see cities from space.
I know, and that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It means that the ecology is still rather strong on Earth. So the projected path would be somewhere along the equator, going between Peru, Venezuela, Uganda, Congo, and India, and yeah, that area. Estimates were for an impact went as high as 3.1% as of last week. And while we were doing our dress rehearsal, live update from NASA said that has been changed to now a 1.5% chance of possibility of hitting us.
So you're saying there is a chance?
There is a chance. Now, this is why I'm so confident that it's unlikely that it would cause serious damage unless it was to directly hit a city. Okay. An impact of an asteroid this size, which depends on its density, which they haven't been able to directly measure yet. We don't have an idea. But if it follows, something of this size would cause an impact with energy about the size between 8 megatons and 50 megatons.
Sure.
To give that perspective, the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki had a yield of 15 kilotons. So, takes 1,000 kilotons to equal 1 megaton. You know, just math, guys. So, which means that it could be, I don't know, 800 times bigger or something like that. Or, the math's failing me. Or as much as 1,000 times bigger.
Yeah, gotcha. It's
something
an
along that line.
exponential
Right.
size.
Now the question would be, if an explosion like that happened on Earth, would it be noticeable worldwide? And I'm going to say no. Do you know why? With certainty, by the way.
Why?
Because we already had 250 megaton incidents happen within the last century. The most recent was in 1950s or something, when the Soviet Union detonated the mother of all hydrogen bombs that yielded 52 megatons. To this date, it is the largest nuclear explosion ever done, created by man, and registered in history. I can guarantee you, maybe the US government knew that it happened, but the rest of society and Europe had no clue. No.
I would very much beg to differ that there was probably not at least one bomb test that was more powerful.
Please explain. Or are you
If
going to
the
be able to
Soviets
share
did
said
it- No, it's a causality, right?
Well,
well here
ahead.
no, but you know, on a strategic level, right? The Soviets never wanted to be shy about brandishing their shit, right?
Sure.
We had the occasional, you know, mindset of keep it to yourself. That's why we blew things up underground. And that's why we were
true.
dropping bombs out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Okay.
This is also true. And I'm picking up what you're putting down, and that is very plausible. I will say, I can't say no. I will say that officially the United States position on nuclear weapons has been, we don't need the mother of all bombs. We just need a lot of 8 megaton bombs. And we'll cluster them. And that was their tactical strategy. Because if you have 8 kiloton bombs, that's 64 megatons. I'm sorry, 8 megaton bombs, that's 64 megatons right there. So you don't need to break the bank in doing that, and you could just create them on the,
Well,
the
slightly
what's the thing
bigger
that Henry
than death
Ford,
by 1,000.
What did Henry Ford create? The conveyor belt.
Yeah.
So that was the official U.S. policy. What you're saying could completely be true. It's just not been brought to the public. So
When in doubt, always assume that we have another ace in the hole. You know,
sure.
we proved it in World War II.
What, with having radar?
With having the A-bomb.
Oh, well,
We're
yeah.
the only country to actually use a tactical nuclear weapon in combat against an enemy combatant.
I don't mean this.
Use the term combatant as you will, but the extreme power of our nuclear arsenals, you know, is a little bit different than the impact of a spaceborne object hurtling at us, you know, even at an exponential timeline, which it is, and the times can adjust and change and whatnot, as particularly as our tracking mechanisms get more and more refined.
Sure. And James Webb will be looking more into this in the coming months. The James Webb Telescope, they'll be using that to refine the orbit trajectory and whatnot. And also,
I
this
think
will be dealing with the
James
keyhole
Webb
event.
to catch anything.
Nice. It's not Spider-Man. That being
Whatever
said,
a spider can.
nice. That being said, YR4 is going to have a keyhole event come 2028. So we'll have a better idea come 2028 if that keyhole will be hit. And if it gets hit, we're going to see some fireworks. Now, I also want to point out that another explosion happened in the 20th century, well before the mother of all bombs happened. And I'm going to just bring this up here and share. Do you recall what that is, sir?
In Siberia. Yes.
The Tunguska event. You can see here 80 million trees in 1908 were completely felled. This picture, well, take a look at the picture. 80 million trees were knocked down after a massive explosion was registered in Siberia. Just massive damage and whatnot. Now I'm going to exit out of this. Can I do that? No. Okay, cool. I'm just going to, there's more pictures. See right here, the Tunguska event, right in the middle of the heart of Siberia. And then you can see that land part. These are the trajected areas in the way it hit and exploded over Siberia. These are thought to be the size. I don't know what this is. I'm not even going to pretend. So I'm going to back out of this. Just so everyone is aware, large explosion. Yes. The Tunguska event was a large explosion between 3 to 50 megatons. So it's probably more in the middle there, not 50 megatons. But
that's a very wide.
It's a wide range, right? Yeah. That occurred. And on the morning of June 30th, 1908, the explosion over the sparsely populated East Siberian taiga felled an estimated 80 million trees over an area of 2,150 square kilometers or 830 square miles of forest. Eyewitness accounts suggest up to 3 people may have died. The explosion is generally attributed to a meteor airburst, the atmospheric explosion of a stony asteroid about 50 to 60 meters wide. So the Tunguska event, is roughly about little less than half the size of YR4. Interesting, right? And
noting that this without an impact.
Yes. However, that being said, an airburst explosion over an area would cause a wider area of damage, which is why
it would have caused a more dispersed, area of damage.
Right.
I'm quite familiar. It's the difference between solid shell and explosive shells.
Exactly. So I mean, sorry, I don't mean to overtalk myself, but I just needed to point that out.
Yes.
So it wasn't a direct impact, but it caused a whole hell of a lot of damage the same way any tactical missile would in another circumstance. So that being said, where do we go from here, DT? I forgot.
Well, the kind of impact that you might get, and yes, I know that we'll have some lead time, but some of these become somewhat hard to predict. You don't know if there's going to be some level of breakup upon entry, in which case things will act up, kind of do a repeat of what happened in Siberia, or if it'll come in more intact, and depending on where it hits, can impact, and determine what the wider swath of damage would be. Okay. If you take something of the size of this asteroid and it hits in the water near, say, the Bahamas in an archipelago, you're talking about storms that will wash over an entire island chain.
Yep.
You talk about, is it better or worse to hit a direct, is it a direct shot? So, I mean, like anything else, you look at what the estimates are and then what exactly are the scenarios that could come from it. So yes, if it's projected to possibly hit, in the middle of nowhere, a less populated area, there is going to be a profound ecologic change in those areas. There's going to be disruption of, something this size will also throw a decent amount of debris up in the air.
Yes, but it wouldn't. I don't think it would be much different than the effects of a large volcano going off, like Krakatoa.
Well, Mount St. Helens, when that blew, it covered like a good chunk of the Pacific Northwest in a fine miasma of dust and such.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, ask Iceland. They deal with that too all the time. Europe was completely dealing with the effects of that volcanic explosion in like 2011 or something.
Yeah, that's because the jet stream was going.
Yeah, it would. So but again, it didn't change the climate overall to totally affect human civilization in that regard. And you're right, there is a lot of lead time, which allows us to be able to plan ahead. And I'm going to talk about this, and then I want you to put in your societal perspective on this, and then it'll lead us into a few instances of how Hollywood would portray that. I'm kind of interested. The macabre part of me is kind of interested in seeing this thing hit. Number one, knowing it's not a civilization destroyer, and number two, only if it doesn't kill anyone. Those are my two things. Those are my two requirements, right? If it were to hit the ocean, it would create a wave, a massive tsunami about the size 100 feet, 100-foot waves. So it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a mile high or anything like that, like a dinosaur destroying one or something. But it would be pretty devastating if you're near some kind of coast. But that wave will dissipate the longer it has to travel. So if it happens in a very remote portion of an ocean, most probably the Pacific, let's be clear, or the Atlantic, I think it was the thing, you'd get hit. The coastal cities would have time to prepare for this moment, and they'd be able to get evacuation orders done. Same if there was some kind of city in the way, right? If a city was the immediate target of this thing, you would have years to be able to prep for that humanitarian dispersal of people. Which is one of the saving graces of knowing that this thing is happening. You have the time to be able to predict how it's going to hit and whatnot. So it's not an earthquake. It's not, we're not talking like the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami situation where no one.
Jeez.
I mean, yeah, 250,000 people were wiped off the face of the earth in a single day. Like from that, it was devastating, awful, and disgusting.
Awful, yes. Disgusting is. I mean, you're attributing, some I think more negative connotation. Probably just because it's a natural event. It's not like it was, plotted by, like somebody blew up an underground nuke or something off the coast.
What do you know?
Sea bass.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
You're a tempered sea bass.
So that's my contention. of why this asteroid would not be particularly devastating, because we would have the opportunity to be able to prepare for said imminent impact. Now, this is a scenario that we're just going to let it hit, right? We've got 7 years to prepare for this thing. NASA has the ability to be able to launch something to be able to deviate this course. So, you know, come 2028, when it's flying through that keyhole area where it's nearby, we would have the opportunity to be able to disrupt it, just like NASA did another asteroid a couple years ago. It's plausible. It happens. It can happen. It's been proven.
So
How did
NASA deflect this other asteroid? Since we're going to bring it up, you might as well
Sure.
throw it out there.
There's been a lot of theories about like throwing a nuke at it or something. What NASA did was pretty simple. They basically just hit a bullet with a bullet. They launched a projectile and had it ram full speed into the asteroid. No explosives or anything. Just, you know, a big kinetic impact, which caused it to go off of its course by a degree or two. Nothing crazy. But when you go off by 1 degree or so, that is miles, thousands of miles, hundreds, millions of miles difference the farther you go down that path. So
Yes.
It doesn't need to be a drastic change. Just a small change here or a small change there, just a kinetic impact, and boom, done. It doesn't, I mean, you barely even need computers for it. Well, you do, but you don't need someone to go up there to drill a hole and plant a nuclear explosive in it and then try to get off.
You don't just send somebody. You send goddamn Bruce Willis.
You do. Oh, I miss him. He's a good man. That being said,
that's fair.
What are your societal thoughts on this, sir?
Well, somebody will make a deal out of it. They always will. Geopolitically, you know, someone will use it to either seize power. You know, if you go ahead, let's just say it's aimed at a major population center.
Mm-hmm.
You now have to evacuate a capital, a major port, you know, a major hub of trade and commerce.
Mm-hmm.
That significantly disrupts a society. And if it's let's just use, for example, let's say it's aiming straight for New York City, one of the 5 largest cities in the entire world. In that span of time, can we evacuate New York? Sure. New York, however, is also a valuable. You're talking about rail lines, shipping lines, warehouses, ports, airports.
A few hundred.
Sorry.
All of these things are factored into that situation. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a country like the United States could absorb the dismantling of a New York City, possibly, and starting to move Wall Street somewhere else, you know, diverting traffic and whatnot in a plan, right? But there are other places where if you take out their major port or whatnot, it's going to cripple an economy. And even with 5 years notice or whatever, do you really think if it was aiming for, say, Tokyo or Hong Kong or London or Paris, that's not going to completely disrupt the fabric of the society that they're in?
No. If I wanted to be petty, I would say that all of those cities are not in the pathway. But I know what you're saying. You're absolutely correct. It absolutely would. Changing the infrastructure, abandoning an entire infrastructure process would be a shock to that nation's system. Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially the
nations. Smaller ones. Ha! Look at that.
Or look at a country like Japan, an island nation.
Yeah.
You know, that would be like societal crippling.
Yeah. But here's the fun part. So, not the fun part necessarily.
Your
but
transitions need work.
I'm looking on the bright side of this. Okay, I'm looking on the silver lining of all this. All of those countries you just mentioned are very good at adapting. That's the gift of humanity. We're adapters. We evolved during a massive ice age and survived in some of the harshest climates whatsoever, and we're not even covered in fur, most of us. I can't speak for myself, but that being said, we adapt, and give it enough time, humanity can adapt very well. It'll hurt, but it's a temporary situation, always. So that's my silver lining on that. I don't know. Do you refute?
I mean, for me, it always depends on where. If this thing goes aiming right for, let's just say Pyongyang, maybe the last bit of thing that's keeping an entire country from collapsing upon itself in a very xenophobic country.
Well, first of all, they wouldn't believe us that an asteroid was. If we told them, they wouldn't believe us. So
yeah.
You can only do so much for that situation.
They'll be so lonely.
Oh, no. Are you gonna get us banned?
No, I said lonely.
I know you said lonely, but of course we all could hear it in our heads what that song really was. Oh my goodness. Oh. So let's talk about Deep Impact here. Oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
All right, let's not do an entire review of the movie Deep Impact like we did last week, because we've got to be bobbing and weaving here.
Judicious.
So, yes.
So I want to give a final prediction about this whole thing. Do I believe that there's a chance this asteroid could hit us? Absolutely, there is a chance. Do I think it's going to happen? I do not. I do not think that it's going to happen. I honestly think that it'll buzz by us within the moon's orbit distance, which is 250,000 kilometers. I'm sorry, miles. It's more in kilometers, but it's 250,000 miles distance between us and the moon. Generally, that changes through the course of the orbit. But is that a far enough distance? It's a very close distance, astronomically speaking. Very close. It's just, having something whiz by your face with that much distance, and I'm talking like an inch worth.
Hey, look, I can tell you from personal experience how even around moving about 10, 15 feet above your head will make you realize.
Pretty scary, yeah, right?
Oh yeah, like, I didn't think I needed to change my shorts, but let me go check.
Yeah. It's 15 feet sounds like a long distance. It's not when you're in that situation. Same with this, right? So I do not think that there's anything we need to worry about. Worst case scenario, if this thing does actually, in fact, hit us, we're going to be fine. Things, some countries will have to endure a bit of a hardship. I'm sure that Western nations would step in and help the best way that they can, if they're allowed to. But humanity will live on, and we'll have the most minimal amount of casualties in that circumstance.
We hope.
I'm sure we would. That being said, did we want to watch the news of the meteorite exploding over Russia?
No.
No?
Nope.
It's so compelling. It's loud.
Yeah. You like loud noises.
Yeah. Just do a couple of those exercises real fast.
That doesn't really work.
Here, I just want to share this. It's just real fast. Come on. And then we could start talking about them. I just want to share what the magnitude is for an asteroid like this. Now these are smaller
Monty
asteroids.
Python, get on with it.
The images look like something out of a movie. A tiny asteroid tearing through space at a speed of 33,000 miles per hour before streaking across southern Russia. Cameras caught sight of the white trail as it headed across the sky. And then this. An explosion of light, then a massive sonic boom. Strong enough to shatter windows and damage buildings. There were reports
come
of
on,
more than
man, pause.
1,000 people in.
I'm surprised we don't get flagged for this.
Why? It's a news thing.
Yeah. Move on.
I don't understand.
Move on.
Why are you so bitter about this? Do you hate CNN
Move
that much?
on.
You do, don't you? Ha.
God damn it! You don't.
I'm just gonna tell.
Don't pay attention.
I'm gonna tell you about. No, I don't. I'm gonna tell Anderson Cooper on you. That being said,
What is he gonna care?
well, I don't know. Just
That wasn't
depends
even CNN.
It was CNN.
It was not.
It was.
I didn't see the red, except for the Russians.
We're gonna be fine, by the way. Anyway.
Sure.
So that'll give you an idea of like an impact like that or an explosion like that, minuscule in comparison to what we'd be dealing with in 2032. Again, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I don't think we're going to get hit by it. And I think we're all going to be fine. So, you know who wasn't fine? Elijah Wood and his family in Deep Impact. And Elijah Wood made out of it pretty well.
He had the one ring.
Deep Impact was probably the more scientifically accurate of the two asteroid movies that came out in or Impact movies.
Which is probably why it didn't make as big at the box office.
It did not. It did not. Because when you just show real science, there's no flash to it. In this circumstance, it was a comet that was discovered to be hitting, potentially hitting Earth. We are able to see, again, it was taking months and years before this impact was going to happen. The movie takes place over at least 2 years, I believe. So that's number one. We saw it coming. Fine. And then number two, their plan was to be able to send a ship up, intercept the comet, and launch some nukes into it. And then it'd be great. Things happen. Comet splits in two. There's one big one, one smaller one. They have another nuke, but they have to chase the comet at this point. And it's going to take them all the way until it's about to hit Earth. Months, basically, to be able to catch that. They do. Lo and behold, the bigger chunk is destroyed. The smaller chunk lands into the ocean. Massive wall, like, of water, 200, 300 feet high. Like literally 200, 300 feet high. Not the way that they measure it in the ocean, where it's actually double that. Elijah Wood and his family were trying to evacuate, but there was, over the course of the time, you get to see the societal issue, which you talked about. Even though they had time to prepare, the issue was this is a civilizational destroying comet. So it got to the point where people were wondering, well, what am I working hard for? Why am I keeping my house up? Like, why don't I just steal from other people? Society was beginning to break down because there was a lottery to save a certain number of people. You don't recall this?
No.
Yeah, there was a
if
lottery.
If it lands in the ocean, why don't they move inland?
Well, there were still two chunks coming at the time. So it was going to be a civilization destroying event. So they had these underground bases that they could bring people in, bunkers. but they only had so much room, so they had a lottery system for the general public. And Elijah Wood, because he co-discovered the comet, his family was already going to be going, or actually he was chosen to go. And that was a whole thing. He chose not to do it. He goes back to get his girlfriend and try to save their family, and doesn't work. The comet hits, and everyone tries to get to higher ground, which they did. Girlfriend's parents couldn't because they were in gridlock and everything. It was very sad. I feel like the melancholy was well done. You felt loss in this circumstance. I did like how they were able to get to higher ground and they saw the water coming and it just stopped in dramatic fashion, like right where they were, and then started to recede. So, civilization was saved. If it had hit on land, it would have been a different story. But since it hit water, they just had to deal with the water fallout. Just like Washington, D.C. was completely underwater for a time being. You did not see this movie, correct?
I did not go to the theater to see it. I'm pretty sure I might have seen it. Like friend put it on TV or whatever.
Right. Like I said, this is the one I saw on the... Right. I did not see Armageddon for years because I boycotted it because it was grossly unscientific, and I took umbrage with it.
I went to see it because I just don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah, like you said, Michael Bay, Jerry Bruckheimer, woo. Was he coming off of The Rock at this point? Was The Rock his latest?
Yeah, maybe.
I think it was The Rock. Yeah,
that was
The Rock.
A good movie.
The Rock was awesome. The Rock took me by complete surprise. It's still a good movie. I think I want to watch it now. All right, so the premise of this is it's an asteroid the size of Texas that's about to collide into Earth, and they only have like 2 weeks to prepare. Again, we would have seen an object the size of Texas barreling towards us years in advance. But that being said, and also there's no object.
No, man, it was that back behind that there shrub.
Right there behind that shrub, yeah. Not to mention that there is no
dark side of the moon.
There is no asteroid that exists in the solar system that is that big. And nowhere close. I mean, it's basically a dwarf planet, and it wouldn't be on that kind of course if it emanated from this solar system. So right there, I'm like, no. And then they're like, we're going to have to train. This is a complex drilling operation. We're going to have to train some drillers or oil drillers in order to go up there and plant some nukes into the asteroid rather than training astronauts. But that's okay. There was a lot of jokes, so it worked. They didn't want to pay taxes ever again.
Well, who does?
So, yeah. A typical Michael Bay movie. It had heart. It had a song. Don't Want to Miss a Thing, which I feel like Goo Goo Dolls' Iris was a better song for City of Angels that came out that year, but whatever. Who am I? I'm just an old romantic.
Hey, it's Aerosmith.
It was a good song, don't get me wrong, but I felt Goo Goo Dolls was better.
I would rather listen to Iris than I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. I'm not going to lie. But
maybe because it was played out.
I'm still taking Aerosmith.
Yeah, well, Boston's got a Boston.
Fuck yeah.
So, you didn't see the societal consequences in Armageddon because they basically kept it secret.
No, because everybody was like holding hands at the end. That was kind of
that's
shit.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Again, no one had the opportunity to be able to really break down because the asteroid was just going to imminently hit anyway. The movie itself is fun. It's fine. I eventually saw it years later. I don't think I ever watched it all the way through, though. I watched enough sections of it to know what the plot was and everything. And Liv Tyler and Ben Affleck, and Bruce Willis saves Ben Affleck so that Ben Affleck could marry his daughter.
Of course.
Yeah, that worked. It was the noble sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Which I walked out of the theater when the astronauts in Deep Impact sacrificed themselves. I walked out going, yeah, that's the right. Yeah, that's what a true hero does. Like, anything you want to say about Armageddon at all?
It was fun to go see in the theater.
Okay, very good, very good.
But you're right. It is definitely the science on that didn't make 100% sense. I know they it must have been a parody when they did the Futurama giant ball of garbage episode.
Do you know when that came out? Because you're thinking it must have been a parody because you don't know when it came out, right?
Well, it had to be a parody because this came out in 98 and Futurama didn't come out until like 99.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, my fault. Yeah. Didn't it come out the same time Family Guy did, January of 99? Yeah. Yeah, it did.
A big piece of garbage. 8th episode of first season of Futurama, May 11th, 1999.
Are you kidding me? The first season? The first season?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, they had asteroids on the mind, didn't they, in 1998?
Well, the plot of this episode is reference to the 1998 film Armageddon, in which a group of astronauts attempt to destroy an asteroid heading to Earth with a nuclear warhead. But they do try to do that, too. Unfortunately, Farnsworth screws it up and puts the timer in backwards. So instead of 25 minutes, they have 52 seconds. So they can't blow up this giant ball of garbage, which was launched into space in the mid-20th century that contained all of New York's garbage.
Yeah.
So their solution was to fight fire with fire or garbage with garbage. And they convinced New Yorkers to make garbage and send an entire a ball of garbage the exact same size careening into the other one, knocks the old one into the sun, and then this other one goes flying out into space. And somebody's like, at the end, is like, couldn't this be a problem? They're like, not our problem.
Not our problem.
Yeah. Sounds like somebody else's problem.
Yeah, that sounds like a next generation problem to me.
She's quickly dismissed as the new ball should not return for hundreds of years, perhaps around the year 4000.
And rinse, wash, repeat.
So, yes, even Futurama got in on the act.
There are other shows. Star Trek had a couple. The original series had one where Kirk is stranded on a planet with Native Americans. The preservers brought to that planet to save their culture, and the ability to be able to save the planet rested on Spock, and they needed to save the planet because they knew Kirk was there. But they had to deal with this asteroid that all attempts to try to deviate the thing from the course just didn't work. They were trailing this asteroid for months. Again, another scientifically accurate idea. The episode takes place over the course of months. Kirk is there for months on this planet. And the preservers, device had a deflector ray on it to be able to push the asteroid off course, because apparently they saw this was an asteroid active solar system. Okay, there were a lot of unstable orbits that these asteroids had, and so they left the Native Americans with a defense. The other one, Q-less?
Yes.
Q-less? Was it?
I think.
The episode where Q is turned human and banished to the Federation because punishment to
Nope.
punishment for what is it called?
It is not. That was the Deep Space Nine episode.
Oh,
oops.
As punishment by the Q Continuum for acting up, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And the crew of the Enterprise was in the middle of this mission of trying to save this non-Federation world from an asteroid impact. Newsflash, you'd think that they would have been able to figure out this process by now.
Deja
Q, thank you. After analyzing the original Enterprise logs, but no, they're like not our problem anymore. So they don't believe that Q is human. They like torturing him a little bit, making fun of him being hungry and falling asleep. And then eventually some aliens come by that want to get Q, but put the Enterprise in peril. So Q decides to sacrifice himself, steal a shuttle, and divert the aliens away from the Enterprise to save them. And then the Q are like, "Oh, you showed selflessness. Fine, you got your powers back." And who was it that said that?
Corbin Burnson.
Yes, Corbin Burnson. Didn't know it at the time and doesn't really ring much with me now, unfortunately. But I know Corbin Burnson's been in a lot. Neat little cameo. I like when they have those cameos. So we got that instance. Stargate SG-1 had one where Apophis, the Gould system leader, surreptitiously sent an asteroid filled with Naquita, the energy element that powers the gate and whatnot, towards Earth as a way to destroy it. So, but they don't. It looks like a natural event because Apophis had signed a peace treaty with the Asgard, the Greys, to not allow that. And what they basically do is they wrap the asteroid in a hyperdrive bubble with the Prometheus ship, and they just fly right through the Earth and send the asteroid on its way that way. Because hyperspace exists on a different plane of existence, a different dimensional plane. So you're able to go through the Earth that way. Ingenious idea. Let it happen. Let the impact happen, basically, right? So I liked that. There is... Do you have any others? Because I want to bring up Without Warning.
There wasn't the series finale of 911 Lone Star.
Oh yeah, that's right.
which takes place supposed to be in Austin, following first responders in Austin, Texas. The sequel series of the original 911 from L.A. So they face down a comet, an asteroid, which they think is going to strike Austin if it doesn't break up over the atmosphere. And the first episode of this two-parter is everybody preparing for this asteroid to come in and how that's going to handle. And the second part eventually becomes what happens when the thing actually does explode in the upper atmosphere, but the fallout of debris falling as opposed to the asteroid hitting Austin and basically leveling the center of Texas. So, but that does follow the fallout, which includes a nuclear reactor being struck, and then by a piece of the debris, and they have to rush to stop a nuclear meltdown because reasons.
Yeah, of course.
Look, don't get me wrong. I very much enjoy the show. I kind of like these, police procedurals and first responder shows. I like them. I'll give them credit. They opted not to, they opted to go out with a bang. So,
yeah, seriously.
I guess it's a little bit, world-changing events for one city's fire department as opposed to, fighting a fire in a warehouse, which can still be a massive event and cause quite a lot of damage and casualties. I'm not minimizing that, but they're like, hey, you know what these firefighters need to do? Fight an asteroid. Let's do that.
I do think that these 911 shows, go a little wild.
Oh yeah, the LA one had a rogue wave.
Yep.
Like
Yeah, and all
take
Santa
out
Monica
whatever it
was
is, Santa
destroyed.
Monica Pier. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. Funny part about that is that Santa Monica itself is 60 feet above sea level. So any kind of tsunami or climate change that would cause the seawater to rise, technically LA would be just fine because it's 60 feet above sea level. The beaches would be gone, but the cliffs would still be there. Anyway, that being said.
Yeah, but it was, typically these kind of massive events like this have a tendency to show up more in sci-fi heavy events, not so much, oh, it's a giant asteroid. It's going to wipe out the state of Texas. And you're like,
Really?
okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, let's do it.
Okay. Can Rob Lowe and Gina Torres stop an asteroid?
No.
All right, you rogue. I'll play your game. Let's see what you've got.
I'm gonna have to say no.
And let's not forget either that while this is happening, Gina Torres is also battling cancer. Okay, so she's going to fight an asteroid and a nuclear reactor. Go.
Jesus. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, I want to bring up one more thing. There's this TV movie that came out in 1994. Kind of a modern version of the Orson Welles' story of, or the modern telling, sci-fi story told in the style that War of the Worlds was told back in the 1920s when Orson Welles was broadcasting it as like a real live news report.
Yeah.
So I want to share this just real quick. It basically goes into, it shows like what a TV movie is on, and then it gets interrupted with a news segment about these three asteroids that hit the Earth. One in France, another in the US, and then another in China, I believe. So here we go. You gotta love the dramatic music.
Oh yeah, very TV movie.
We interrupt this program for a special bulletin. Here now is Sandy Hill.
Seismologists at Caltech now report at least 3 separate seismic
Except
events
her name
tonight,
is Sandy
each
Hill.
in the northern
that
hemisphere,
help.
with earth tremors of magnitude 8.5 and above.
Turn this down a little bit.
The first location is believed to be in the Thunder Basin area of Wyoming. That's about 200 miles east of Casper.
I'm just gonna have this play out.
We have no reports of
It'll
casualties.
cut back to the movie.
The other 2 sites in Europe and Asia have not been identified. But stay tuned at 11 o'clock news for further details. We now resume our regularly scheduled program.
So, and this, okay. So, and then there's other news interjections and everything as this plays out and whatnot. And, I was 13 when this came out. I wasn't a child, but little naive enough to be like, wait a minute, is this like a real possibility here? And then about 30 minutes in, I'm like, oh no, we're good. It's not a real possibility because we have a good old friend here. Here we go. Mr. John Delancey.
Force officials tonight and later released after reporting a UFO. The alleged incident occurred as he was landing his plane some 40 miles west of crash site Alpha.
Anyway, so it turns out that these asteroids are actually controlled by aliens, and they slowly... sort of, yeah. They slowly come to realize, oh, these were intelligently crafted here, and one of the nations, I don't know if it was China or the United States, decided to nuke one of the sites, and that angered the aliens. And at that point, you're in mission control, and everyone's like staring at the screen. And the newscaster is going to the reporter. John, what are you seeing? John, what are you seeing? Cameraman, turn around. Show us what's on the screen. Show us what's on the screen. Because everyone's like shocked. Cameraman turns, and then you see hundreds of these asteroids coming down to Earth in retribution for the strike. Something like this. It's been, oh my God, 31 years since I've seen the whole thing. So my memory could be off a little bit. And that's how it ends. It ends bleakly like that. War of the Worlds itself was not bleak. So, yeah. Good old John Delancey allowed me to be able to enjoy this movie for what it was, because I knew he was an actor, not a newscaster or a news reporter. So, yeah.
The trial never ends.
You just don't get it, do you? The trial never ends, Picard. So, that being said, I can't think of anything else. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
Just so you know, this is a no asteroid zone.
Oh, okay.
My asteroid policy is up to date. So, buzz off.
Well, there we go. Okay. So, hoping for an asteroid-free future, as far as we can tell, as far as I know of. Again, I really don't think anything is going to happen that we need to worry about it come 2032. But who knows? Let's just wait and see. And always question everybody, because that's how the scientific process works. On that note, I'm PS McKay. We are those sci-fi guys. Until the next time, you guys keep dreaming. We'll keep working. So long, everybody. It's out there.
And I'm DT Cavman, and from up here on the high ground, it's a clear, nice sky.
Cool. Sci-Fi Guys is an independent broadcast by Alpha Site Productions, produced by DT Kathman and PS McKay. Music courtesy of Epic Music Waves and Tropical House Music. For more information on upcoming episodes, follow PS McKay on X at PS McKay, or go to thosci-fi-guys.com for past episode information. You can now find us on Spotify, so head on over there for our latest episodes, but don't worry, you can still find us on Apple. We are also live on Rumble. You can find us on YouTube with live video podcasts and Facebook, so be sure to leave a like and a comment to let us know how you're doing. Or how we're doing. Doesn't matter. We hope you're well.